All right, let's call to order. Changes to the agenda. We got sent a revised resolution for the airport fund balance for the customs facility resolution. Hopefully everybody got that last night. Dan, did you get it? Okay. Any other changes? Do we have any public comment this morning? I don't see anybody on the screen. Guess not. For chair's report, don't have a lot this morning other than I'm hoping this will be our last Zoom meeting, but it probably won't be that lucky. Eventually we'll get back to having face-to-face meetings at some point. I don't know. I wanted to report that I got an email from Jason Molino this morning, and he's got a couple of competing conferences he's got to do this morning. And so he said he'd try to be in and out of this meeting, but for the most part, he won't be here. But he wanted us to know that he was in full support of the various airport resolutions that are going to be taken up later this morning. Are there any reports or announcements from any of our committee members? Or anyone else that'd like to make an announcement? There's Ann Corman. Welcome, Ann. Well, I guess not. You guys are easy this morning. So we'll postpone the county administrator's report then. And let's go to the Department of Recycling and Materials Management, since we have Barbara and Leo with us this morning. Barbara, you got to unmute.
Okay, well, we are at a point where we issued a draft RFP for the new recycling center contract, and we received comments back from 2 vendors, including Waste Management and Casella. We then had Zoom meetings with them to clarify their comments. They each had maybe 2 or 3 pages of comments, and they were all very, very good. And we then went ahead and we did have some minor modifications to the RFP, and we're also going to share the comments and responses with, when we go out for the final. We're at a point where, just to remind you, that the contract with Casella currently ends in February, and our schedule is very, tight and thorough. We plan to go out for RFPs after this meeting with approval. We don't need approval, but we just need you to be supportive. And if there are any issues that we need to address, we do need to take care of those. And the proposals will be due at the end of August, and then we'll be awarding a contract in November and early December, a legislative meeting after a lot of review and discussion with the committee. So we prepared an executive summary. Jonathan prepared it, and then the rest of the team had comments and revisions. And Jonathan, how do you want to handle this?
Dave McKenna's here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessary to go over each point. If there are any questions, be happy to handle them. I mean, it's basically, for the most part, continuation of the current operations with some minor facility improvements and changes to better accommodate the materials and the traffic. But there's no major change from what we did before.
The only thing I would say that's a moderate change is that instead of pulling recyclables and reusables from the waste stream, which turn out to be extremely expensive and not productive, we are just going to be having them pull cardboard. And also the commercial line, which was more extensive, is also going to, we're going to be doing the cardboard. We anticipate that this is going to cost a lot more money than what we had 10 years ago. And we've looked for different ways, to streamline operations, but there's some critical items in here like the living wage, which wasn't in the last one, but we had to add it later. And we also did make a comment. We added number 9 because there was a lot of conversation back with the draft RFP. I know Mike and Dan had a lot of concern regarding the issue of the deposit containers. So we explained what the comments were in a nutshell, and we can certainly speak more to anything that you want to talk about.
Okay, should we take questions? I had a couple, but anyone else want to start? Barbara, I was wondering about, for example, the executive summary says we will do single stream recycling. If in the future we decided we wanted to go back to dual stream recycling, is there going to be a provision in that would allow a reopener, for example?
No. And the reason why, and we've thought about it a lot. Yes. If we wanted to change the contract, there's always a way to do it. But the difficulty is the fact that there are no other facilities in our neck of the woods that do dual stream. So what would happen is it would all be mixed together.
The only way, Mike, for us to do dual stream would be basically to redo our facility, because none of the facilities that would propose are dual stream.
And when I say we've talked about it a lot, I think that it's obvious that, with the way the markets have been, that's an issue. There's been a lot of articles in our specialized journals about it. And the bottom line with going back to dual stream is it would be much, much more expensive to do it. And also, what's going on now, and I think it's going to be what's going to continue, is there's such a demand right now because of the commercial stream having been, relatively small with everything being closed. The markets have skyrocketed for fiber. And the trend with new facilities coming on board, which is really happening definitely by the time the new contract starts, there's going to be much more of a demand for paper. And I think that will really help to save some money in the future. Leo, any thoughts on that?
No, I certainly agree. We've seen a big uptick in market commodity pricing in May. And from what I understand, it's going to continue, throughout the course of the year. It's going to be a difficult, projection year, if you will. And it's important we kind of get the projections right and understand what we're going into in 2021. But, volumes are down. Pricing was down up until the end of May, the end of April. We're really scrubbing things to try to come up with a good projection for 2020 to base our 2021 budget on.
Mike, does that help you?
Some.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused when John said get a new redo the facility. You mean the facility we're shipping to? You don't mean our facility, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. All the facilities we would ship to are single stream, and the investments in those facilities are millions and millions.
Well, when we got our proposal, last time to do single stream just at our facility, let alone dual stream, it was about $3 to $4 million. I'd anticipate just that we would be in the range of $2 to $3 million at our facility to do dual stream, and for no good. It doesn't wind up, the residential material, will wind up not really producing a lot more revenue. You had other questions?
Does that answer it, Mike?
I'm sorry?
Does that answer? Because what I'm saying is that the facilities that we would ship to are all single stream, and they're not going to change.
I hear that.
The only way to do dual stream would be for us to do it ourselves, which would mean redoing the whole facility.
I understand now the way you're putting it. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that helped.
The other question I had, Barbara, is what committee are we going to put together to review the RFPs when they come in?
We're going to do the same thing we've done last time, and that's a very good question. What we did last time is we included a member from this committee, the county administrator, the finance director, the attorney, and myself, and we'll include Leo. And we can, we're open to whatever needs to happen, but that process that we had, that iterative process, worked really, really well. And, the negotiations with one or more vendors, et cetera. And we'll get back to you in writing on the specifics. Does the committee have any other ideas for what we could do?
I'm wondering if we think one from the committee is enough, or whether we need to have more people from the committee.
I would prefer two if we could.
What's your thoughts on it, folks? Glenn?
I say that's fine, 2 people.
Anne had her hand up.
I didn't see that. I'm sorry, Ann.
Thank you. I was saying I think 2 is fine, and I'd be willing to be on it. If,
Great.
I know I don't know how many people would volunteer, but I'd be willing to do that. And I was just wanted to ask a question too. Are you having any issues with anticipated increases in costs regarding the pandemic? Because we're looking at for a while that this is going to be going on. And
yeah, no, I don't see that as a reason for a cost increase based on the communications we've had. I do know that what we've been paying is far, far lower than what anyone else in New York State and in the country has been paying for the processing of recyclables. So there's no question that that will be significantly higher.
thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm interested in reviewing the responses as well. I don't know about any others.
I mean, I don't think we should exclude anybody. I think it's one of these things where we have a process, we have a timeline, and we just, take it step by step and move forward.
Well, can we just then put it together, and when you're ready, invite the committee, whatever members of the committee want to come?
Yeah.
How's that sound to folks?
And we have both Mike and Ann that are going to be part of the group, and then the others can just join in unless anybody has strong feelings that they know they want to be very involved. Dan says no.
I've done it before, and I'd sort of like to be part of it.
Yeah, it's a really good process, and it takes a lot of time. I mean, not for you so much as us, but we will go through the same process and make it very streamlined.
Yeah, so one thing to point out, it's a little different than most other RFPs, because what it really does is begin a negotiation process, which is pretty long and detailed. So it's not just really a matter of reviewing an RFP and seeing which is best. It begins a negotiation process, of which there are a lot of details.
But it's great fun, I'll tell you one thing. And we're not bashful. We're pretty firm and friendly, and I'd say moderately aggressive in getting what we want. You get to see us in action.
I hope that the responders keep in mind the fact that the cost of fuel is way down.
Well, that's a piece of it. It's a relatively small piece of it, but yep. I mean, everything was out on the table. Leo, what were you going to say?
I said it.
Contracts anymore, whether it's like the hauling disposal, single stream hauling, the curbside collection, all has fuel surcharge calculation in it that goes up when fuel goes up, but it also goes down when fuel goes down. You know, as an example, we just got our annual increase on the haul and disposal bid. If you remember last year, it went up pretty significantly, but that all in total, this year's increase is 10 cents less per ton, and that's with like a 2% CPI increase and then a decrease in fuel. So we're going from 49 a ton to 48.90 a ton because of the low fuel pricing. And that I believe our budget was like $51 a ton. So that definitely helps us. So we've got good language in there as far as fuel goes, Mike.
Great. I didn't know that, and it's good to hear.
We do that, and Leo is right, but Barb is very right in the fact that unlike some of the other contracts like the haul and dispose, the fuel cost is a pretty small percent of this contract. Obviously, in the haul and dispose, for example, it's a pretty large percent of it.
But that's a really good example, Mike, of the kind of like scrubbing that we're going to be doing here. Thank you.
I know, Barbara, I know you and your department are very careful about money. You always have been. So I have a lot of confidence that you'll do that kind of scrubbing with all the issues that come up.
Yeah, one of the things that we haven't really discussed this, but Leo and I have, is that we might just be interested in looking at some sort of version of a county proposal. I'm not saying that we can do this because it would involve hiring a lot of people and that kind of thing, but it never hurts, and Leo's very good at this, to look at what would it really cost if we were to do it. And if it's going to cost more for them, then we gotta work on them, because we got a lot of salaries and things. But it's not necessarily a feasible option, but we can look at that.
I think you've done that before, haven't you? When you were looking at these.
Started to, yeah, we did. Leo, what did we do that for? Oh, the recycling collection.
The curbside recycling collection.
Yeah. When they came in with $1 million more, we looked at that and we got them down to $500,000 more. And we knew we were going to get a huge increase because it was so cheap at the time. But we did go through that, and it did help in the negotiations.
Well, that's good to know. Other questions on this issue? Don't see any hands. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Leo.
you.
Thank you, Barbara.
I appreciate it.
I'm sorry?
I appreciate it. Good comments.
We also have a capital payment summary report for information to Barton LaJudas. They want, looks like $1,680. Any questions on that? Not seeing any. Anything else for us, Barbara?
Not at this time, but I'm sure there will be more as the summer rolls along. We are coming to you next month with an update on our recycling curbside enforcement. Remember, we went from reminding people what can go in and what can't in terms of contamination. We're doing warnings now, and we've been doing them for about 16 weeks. And we haven't done anything to go to enforcement and leaving bins behind because of the virus. And we probably won't for a bit, but we want to give you a report. So we'll be seeing you on that next month.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, then let's go to Highway. Jeff Smith.
Hello, everyone. Not much for all of you today. I have a capital payment summary report, 5 items. If you want to look that over and let me know if you have any questions. The only other thing I thought I'd let everyone know about is the Ludlowville Bridge bid is presently out on the market. The bid opening date is June 3rd. We're hoping to get some good, within budget competitive bids and move that project forward. And again, if you have any questions on the payment summary, I'm happy to answer, or anything else that you might have a question on.
I see Dan's hand, then Glenn.
Hi, Jeff. I want to ask you about a big subject, the Freeze Road Bridge. So we just heard this announcement the other night. I don't know any details at all that Dryden is putting forward a plan for the one-lane bridge.
Yeah, that was talked about at our last meeting. Martha forwarded the resolution. I think their board meeting coincided the evening of our last F&I meeting. And the town board of Dryden has passed a resolution to construct a single lane bridge, that was their preferred alternative, and that it would be similar in nature to the Forest Home Bridge that was recently constructed, where the trusses of the existing bridge would be removed, rehabbed, and then placed back on the single lane structure as a kind of a facade. The town of Dryden is understanding that they would be responsible. That's not a structural component of the bridge, so they'd be responsible for maintenance. They would own that truss sitting on the bridge. There's other requirements that DOT, I think, is talking to the town about, that the town is aware. But that is true. That's the direction they've decided to head in. It was a 5 in favor vote of that. I think the resolution was shared. If you don't have it, I can share that resolution.
So is that the end of the story? Do we have any say in this? Is there any other county way in which the county relates to this bridge that we should be thinking about or could think about? Is there traffic studies that we have any say in, anything at all? Or is that it? Dryden says, we want a one-lane bridge, but county, you have to maintain it and own it.
Well, I've said this from the beginning that from the county perspective, we want to ensure that we capture the available funding, and that in the end, it's a new bridge that we won't have to do any maintenance to on the structural components for 75 years. If the town of Dryden is making the decision, if it would have been a 2-lane bridge, I would say the same thing. It's a town road. There's components of the bridge that the town will have to maintain that will be free from county taxpayers. From a county perspective, it's a win as long as there's a new bridge constructed and the components are of modern materials and concrete, and it's a 75 light year span. As far as the traffic volume and the impedance, if any, of the single lane traffic over that will always and forever be a town issue. So the decision is the town decision. I have said from the beginning, as this, the various serpentine nature of this project, the path this project has followed, the county will be voting, on the design to F&I degree. I'm not really sure, but DOT will look for a concurrence. At that point, they will be so far down the road of whatever design they've gone with. It'll be really hard. I would not recommend not accepting that design, but I can't tell anybody how to vote. But at that point, it's prior to bidding, as far as like a final design. At that point, the state will have concurred with the design and all of that. I will say that regardless of the town's decision resolution, that it's not 100% done deal. They still have some phases to go through having to do with SHPO, which is the State Historic Preservation Organization. They do have some back and forth concurrence to get through that. I don't know that that's going to change anything or what kind of effect, but them simply picking a preferred design, whether it was whatever preferred design, it doesn't mean that it is what they picked, but anything still would have to go through a few steps. They have to prove that they're doing their best to preserve the historical aspects of the truss. So it's not a completely done deal. I do want to say that, but that's my take on it. I'm open to any other questions. I hope I answered yours.
You did. And then maybe this is one you can't answer, but is the money that was allocated for this subject to the governor's taking it back?
All of the capital program funds, the Bridge New York funds, are all bond funds, so they're not at all impacted by the present state of affairs as far as the financial difficulties that we're all facing. And that's the reason that we're still bidding Ludlowville Bridge. And so the capital side of things at this time is still progressing. Everything kind of been awarded in the hopper is moving forward.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
Let's get Glenn, then Ann, then Martha.
Hi, Jeff. How are you? Do you have a list of postponed or canceled projects for the summer yet?
We aren't doing any paving, any chip seal. Everything is on hold at this time.
All right. Do you think that it'll be active in July or August?
I was asked by Jason to come up with 2 plans to move this forward through the summer. One was a minimal plan, one was a minimal paving plan that included the furlough option in both of them. The decision I was directed to was to follow the minimal plan, which included furloughing 12 employees. We have 25. That's spread pretty thin. We are working. We have 3 grade all crews. We're basically looking at it from a safety of the traveling public perspective, in that we're filling potholes, mowing roadsides, maintaining signs. The ditching that we're doing now is more of along the lines of service orders, ponding, problems with culverts, getting drainage improvements going. But at this time, we're not planning on any mainline paving. We had about 25 miles of paving anticipated and another 30 miles of chip seal. The minimal paving plan was doing about 15 miles of paving, but the minimal plan isn't doing anything at this time. At this time, that goes until July 31st. Even if everything were to completely switch back to normal August 1st, we've lost 3 months of work, so we would, to go with that discussion or that scenario for a moment. If everybody comes back to work and we were full blow and we got all our money back from the state, we know where we are, we would at that time be able to pave some roads, but we would be months behind. If we don't do anything this summer, conversations with supervisors in the office, it's going to take us, I would anticipate at least 3 years to really, because we have all the roads that we would have done this year, and then we're going to have a priority of roads next year. By the time we really feel like we're caught up, it'll take 3 years if we don't do anything this year. So we're going to do our best. It's not anything I've ever encountered this extreme. It's a different state of affairs. It's very unique. We're doing the best with what we can. We want to keep all of our employees safe, and we want to keep the traveling public safe. And we're doing that, as best we can with our minimal plan at this time.
Thanks, Jeff.
Ann?
Thank you very much, Jeff. So regarding Freeze Road, I have my first question. So the process is it gets approved by the state and then it comes to us, the county, for final approval. Is that correct?
We will be asked to agree through a state function that we agree with the new bridge going in, and we are going to accept maintenance of it. It's a county bridge. We're gonna, and in that agreement, there'll be very clear components of what we are accepting and what we're taking over. And in turn, it'll also talk to, you know, the aspects of the bridge that the town of Dryden will be responsible to maintain.
Okay. And then as far as paving, I understand, you know, what's going on with that. And as far as you mentioned, and you've talked about before, the culverts, ditching, water management, are we seeing any reduction in those projects? Just, you know, very concerned about water management and flooding. Hold on, gotta get a cat out of my computer. Okay.
I at this time, like today, we have three. We modeled the minimal amount of employees to be able to, you know, we have 2 in our engineering group that are handling permits and progressing our capital projects. We have 2 heavy equipment mechanics and 1 manager. That's you know, we're all wearing a lot of hats. You know, we've shared duties, and then on the maintenance side, we developed a kind of a minimal plan, and we needed to have enough people in case we had a flood, right? But we also need enough people to be able to maintain and take service orders and fix things. Right now, today, we have 3 grade all crews. Now that's done at a minimal scale where we have 2 or 3 trucks with each grade all operator that are, you know, and then the right flagging, and then we pick the right location. We're doing that type of work. In a few weeks, the grass is going to be growing. We're going to have to downsize that probably to 1 crew. And then we're going to have people out, you know, mowing roadsides. You don't think about it, but trimming the growing leaf and brush, the ends of the trees around for visibility on signs is a lot of work and a lot of project. We have over 5,000 signs. They don't all have trees growing around them, but that's a very important thing. The traveling public needs to be able to see the sign. So that's an exercise we generally do in the spring, and then we continually have an eye on that as the summer goes on. So there'll be, you know, employees doing that. You know, we're going to be kind of spreading out, doing, you know, singular kind of nature as far as hauling material and mowing roadsides and patching potholes and things like that. You know, this time of year, especially, we get probably 2 or 3 calls a day about people having concern about drainage in front of their home, or a plug culvert, or ponding of water. So we're reacting, we're keeping up with that. We have enough workforce to be able to do that at this time. I mean, you know, we don't anticipate that changing, but we do, we want to keep up with the work that we have and that we are required to do, and we're focusing on safety.
So I guess I'm still not clear. Are we able to, or are you able to keep up with your plans for any, you know, proactive culvert replacement or ditch drain, you know, improving any drainage, or is that also being reduced?
All we're doing right now is replacing a cross culvert under the road. If it's failing, and we have to replace it, we will replace it. There are a couple right now. There's one on Cobb Street that we have ordered the pipe for. It's a 5-foot culvert pipe. There's various places around the county that we are going to have to do that. We're also going to have to do some bridge repair as the state is at this time hiring consultants to do bridge inspection, and as they're inspecting our bridges, they will be notifying us of flags, you know, problems, safety issues. We're going to have to prioritize and react to that as well, and do some bridge work. That's also ongoing, and we want to keep all of our bridges open. We don't have any plans to have to close a bridge, but if there's something out there that we don't know about that comes in, it is a possibility. But we're going to do everything within our workforce, and I think we're pretty well geared up to be able to take care of whatever to keep bridges open and operating. We may have to lower load weight limits, restrictions thing, but none of that is known right now. We don't know what's coming, but we are prepared to address the majority of any of those issues that we may see with what we have on staff.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the job you're trying to do is juggle all the necessary things to do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Martha.
Thanks very much, Mike, and hi Jeff and everybody. A couple comments on Freeze Road and then some questions about summer work. On Freeze Road, some of the details, the road is proposed to be wider than than a typical lane. So they're going to make sure that it fits all the emergency vehicles and snow plows, et cetera, that the town has wants to be able to use the road. The proposal includes unlimited weight to be structured to carry unlimited and unposted weight. There would be a pedestrian walkway sort of cantilevered off the side that would, and I can't remember the details on the decking, but right now the metal decking is like terrible for pedestrians and bikes and dogs. And so they're gonna fix that too. And I would just remind people, it sort of works both ways. When people were asking me, gee, Martha, is there anything that the county can do to get it to be a 1-lane bridge when the town was leaning towards 2? I said, no, it's really a local decision, and the county stance is, generally, unless something is really radically wrong, that the county stance is generally to accept the local decision. On the road work, Jeff, I'm trying to figure out kind of divergent ways of getting work done. And this is different than a lot of work that county offices, county departments do. Sort of, if there's a delay, it's bad, but it's not critical. A delay in road work is, really critical. So I wonder if the committee could talk with Jason about sort of beefing highway staff back up and imposing bigger furloughs on other staff, other departments. And I just, that's a complex decision, I understand, but it's time sensitive for your department more than some others probably. Another idea about working with towns, you have such a collaborative relationship with towns on snow plowing. I wonder if there's a way that when we do get back to, when we are able to start to do some more work, of course, they'll have their priorities as well, but if there's a way to sort of look holistically at each town's roads with the towns and say, so, Dryden, what's your priority? Can we share resources? I'm just throwing that out there as another possibility to look at what are the most dangerous situations and can we get more of the most important work done. And I corresponded with you yesterday about Turkey Hill Road, which I think is really a safety problem. So that's just one of many examples, I'm sure. So just your thoughts on kind of trying to be more creative about budgeting and getting work done.
We've been in touch with all the towns in the county. I have been probably on a daily basis. We are working together. That's the only reason we're getting the work done that we are. If they need something, we help them. If we need something, they'll help us. We had a town of Lansing truck and operator with us with one of our crews yesterday. So yeah, that's ongoing. We're always doing that. We have been doing that and we'll continue to do that. Okay, that's great. Are you aware of any other pots of money that are being considered either at the state or federal level that might show up? I'm not. We're still waiting to hear on the CHIPS funding right now. Okay. Whether that's going to be reduced or there. I know of a few towns that are paving. They're doing that at risk. I don't know any other way to say that. If the CHIPS money decides to plunge or skip a year or, we don't know. And if the decision right now today, as I'm sitting here, were to say, go ahead and pave, and you would have to be doing it with the possibility of not receiving reimbursement to do that work at this time. We don't know. Right. Thanks so much, Jeff, and appreciate all that you're trying to get done under terrible circumstances. Super unusual. Thank you. Yeah.
Jeff, I wondered if, I think we talked about this earlier in the year or late last year, but would you be interested in doing a presentation to the legislature, say 10 minutes on our road bridge program for this summer and how we've been, how you're coping with the changes you're going to have to do. And when would be a good time to time that, if you would?
I don't know if 10 minutes would, I don't know if I could take up 10 minutes of time for that because there's not, because we're not doing anything. But yeah, I mean, anytime I could do that, that's easy. I'm on a laptop now. I could do that at the board's convenience. But the thing about it is the timing is easy for me, but I don't, every day changes. So I could be saying something to you today, and then if we hear about the state tomorrow, and as soon as we hear that, then I'm gonna be talking to Jason, submitting a possibility of, hey, we have a few sections of road that we could do that are kind of ready to go if we have the funding to do them. That there isn't any work. There's the chip seal is a very little bit of work before we were able to. That's a preservation thing. I haven't lost hope, but I'm only saying what I know now. And as information comes, I will be, working. Believe us, we do not want to not do any work this summer. We really are.
I fully understand that, and I fully understand the need for your disclaimers as in any presentation. But it would give an opportunity for more people because of our broadcast and streaming of the legislature meetings to have you reach a few more people in the community about what's happening.
That's not a problem anytime, Michael. I could do that.
All right. Does the committee have a preference of when that might happen at one of our legislature meetings? I'll go to Leslin and request it. We'll see what we can work out. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments for Jeff? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you all. Stay safe.
Airport, Mike Hall is here.
Good morning.
Morning. Mike, I don't think you were on at the very beginning when I had mentioned that Jason is kind of got a couple of other meetings he's working on at the same time, but he did send me a message this morning saying he was fully in support of all the airport resolutions.
I appreciate that. I was struggling with 2 computers and an iPad trying to get connected. So everything's good at the airport. We're starting to come back, which is good. General aviation is quite normal at this point. Deganic's having to call in extra people this weekend. The thing about general aviation, of course, is it's your plane, right? So you're not in with the public. But the public system is coming back as well. A few weeks ago, we had a lot of empty airplanes flying in and out here with airline logos on them. And now we're running about 50% load factors. So that's coming back. I believe that the airline system will be the safest system for public transportation. But how that goal is met is still evolving. For example, all 3 of the carriers right now are requiring masks on board. We're doing a lot of extra cleaning between flights to make sure that the airplane itself is ready for passengers. We continue to clean scrupulously at the terminal. And the thing that's going to change, and it's not quite clear how, but I believe that temperature checking is going to be a part of the airline system. And I've got a conference call with TSA in a few minutes when I think we'll hear more about that. There are some pretty fancy machines out there right now that remotely scan. But then, of course, there's also the agent asking you a couple of questions and pointing a device at your forehead. I think we'll see that before long. And that in total will make the system safer, more reliable. The airport itself, we've launched a campaign, convenient, clean, and connected. And the clean part, of course, is what I've been talking about. So we're in pretty good shape. Things are starting to come back. We still got a little action with United Airlines. They requested a while ago that they suspend service at Ithaca until July. And that's because they didn't want to fly empty airplanes. And we didn't oppose that. This was back in late March that they made this proposal, but they made it again this week. And I do have a problem with that now that they're at 50% load factor. So we're working with Cornell because I think that as we come back to life, as Cornell comes back to life, you look at the NSF research dollars and all the federal aspects of their program, we really need that Washington service. So that's an issue we're continuing to work on. I mentioned cleaning in the terminal. One of our concerns, or not concerns, but areas of emphasis is people coming into this community. So with the help of Cayuga Medical Center, we've got signage up now. It's in English. It'll soon be in Mandarin as well. Just the same simple stuff we've had all along. Are you feeling okay? If not, here are some numbers where you can get help. And when you go out, you're in New York now. So when you go out in public, you need to socially distance or wear a mask, those kinds of things. And those signs will be changing, I'm sure, as the reopening evolves. But we wanted to make sure if somebody landed here, as I'm sure you know from your life travels, you land in Detroit and you're not feeling well, what are you going to do? So we wanted to make sure that we had reference numbers for any traveler that wasn't feeling well, where they could get 24-hour assistance and referral. I think that's it for the overview, subject to your questions, and then we've got some resolutions.
Questions for Mike before we take up the resolutions? Martha Robertson.
Go ahead, Annie. I see you now.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Ann, then Martha.
Thanks.
Thank you. So Mike, just thank you for that information. Just wondering, will the information you'll be giving to travelers, will that include where they can get tested? And maybe that's a Jason and the health department question is, will we be recommending people from certain areas get tested or evaluated, especially if they're coming in off of international flights or even just from other parts of the country?
Now, the screening's on the intake end, not on the exit end. Our signage and our interest in this is that if you're not feeling well, we've got a 24-hour telephone number where you can get referred into the medical system here and get tested. But it's once you're in the system, it's difficult. Once you get off the airplane, there's no real way we have to screen any more than if you're driving into the county on Route 79. So we're leaving it as a public information program, and that's consistent with other airports.
Okay, so there's no way that anybody's going to be tracked. So for instance, right now, if we have somebody coming in eventually, or say they've originated, say, from Brazil, which is increasing in their numbers of virus cases right now quite a bit. So if we have somebody coming in from there, we're not, I guess, and not saying that would be the airport, I guess that would be the county. There's no.
Well, it's neither. You're coming in from New York City. In order to enter the country from Brazil, you're getting medically screened at your international port of entry for the air carrier. And, it would be impractical here to take everybody getting off an airplane and go through that whole exercise again. So the screening is on the entry to the system end. But I want to make sure that if during your travel, after you enter into the system, you land here and you feel in any way uncomfortable, that you've got a 24-hour number available, which we do on the signage, where you can call and get referred. It doesn't matter whether it's COVID, it could be anything else. So it's information on our end, and we're keeping track of this on a daily basis. If there's any trend of difficulty in the system overall, we'll know about it. We can discuss it at that point.
Okay, thank you. I'm not saying that we should or track people. I'm not sure about that, and not saying that we have the ability to, but I'm just thinking about a lot of concerns that I've heard from people in the public on various topics. So thank you.
Right. Yeah, no, I understand.
Martha's question.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mike. And Mike, Mike, are the restaurants open? Are they going to open?
Well, right now, the Flying Rooster Cafe is a order and takeout basis, and that's where we are today. As we continue through the phases, then we'll figure out at what point the restaurant might be open as normal in the past. So,
Okay, and what seems to me, checking temperatures on the way in is really important and great, but then what happens if somebody has an elevated temperature? Are you going to actually say, don't get on the plane?
it's not one of the reasons we want to stay out of it. That's being worked out right now. It's whether TSA is going to do it. I don't believe that the airlines are going to do it. You know, the single point of screening is TSA, and it makes they can become an all threat screener. And I'll know more about that in the conference call that follows, but that's logically where something would happen. In other words, if you go through screening and you've got contraband in your luggage, you get pulled off to the side. You could say by analogy, if you go through screening and you've got a high temperature, you'll get pulled off to the side. But all that's coming together right now. And we don't have firm answers about that.
Okay, so it's literally not our responsibility. I mean, it's confrontation.
It's really hard.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. It's really hard for either the airlines or us to be involved in any way with that.
Okay, that's kind of a relief. I mean, think about confrontations. If somebody walks into a donut shop and they don't have a mask on, compared to getting on a plane or not, is going to be really a challenge. And just finally, we have things like hand sanitizer kind of all around, so that people can.
We've got hand sanitizer. We've got masks. The airlines have masks. TSA has masks. The FAA is about to apportion us a huge number of masks from FEMA. So we're trying in every way to not only keep the place clean so that when you arrive, it's clean, our second value, but also if you arrive and things aren't going well, like you didn't wear a mask, we've got masks available, and we're trying to make this a supported and pleasant experience as opposed to turning you away at the front door because you forgot your mask.
Okay. Great. All right. Thanks a million.
One more thing about the masks too, though, is we want the masks available when you leave the terminal, because I suspect, knowing human behavior as I do, that there are going to be people that have worn their mask all the way from Los Angeles, and when they get to Ithaca, the first thing they're going to want to do is throw it away, and then they're coming into Los Angeles is a bad choice. Pick a state that's walked away from distancing and masking and everything. All of a sudden now you're in New York and you don't have the PPE that's required. So we're going to have that we have that available for people at the airport that are arriving here and may have either felt that they've had enough time with their previous mask or didn't. Well, it shouldn't be didn't bring one, because they shouldn't be on the airplane without one in the first place.
Yeah. All right. That sounds great. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Yep.
Okay. We've been joined by Jason, I see. Well, I think we are. Jason, are you with us for a little while to go to the resolutions, and then do your report, or do you need to do your report before that?
No, I don't have anything specific to report. So I can answer questions, or I'm here for the rest of the meeting for the most part, depending how long the meeting goes.
Okay. All right, then let's proceed to the resolutions then at this point. We have Resolution A, authorizing supplemental agreement number 24 with CNS Companies, the shared use fuel facility, construction phase services for the Ithaca Tompkins Regional Airport. That's ID 9334. Is there someone want to move that? Dave is moving it, seconded by Glenn. Open this up for discussion. Questions or comments? Mike, you want to say anything about it?
No, this is all standard parts to supporting contracts, and that's what this resolution is about.
All right. Then let's have a roll call vote. Ann Corman,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Dan Klein.
Yes.
I vote yes. That's unanimous. Resolution B, authorizing award of bid and anticipated receipt and acceptance of Federal Aviation Administration grant for the purchase of one aircraft rescue firefighting vehicle for the airport, ID 9338. Someone want to move that one? Glenn has moved that, seconded by Dave. Discussion. Ann, is your hand up for discussion? Ann, did you want to be recognized? Okay. Anyone else? Ready to vote? Ann,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
I vote aye. So that's approved unanimously. Let's go to C. Authorization to execute an agreement, General Aviation Customs Facility. This is the one we have revised, isn't it? Or is that the next one?
Next one.
I'm sorry. No, this is not the one we have revised.
You have the revision on the budget.
Okay. Again, it's authorization to execute an agreement, General Aviation Customs Facility, Airport, ID 9335. Who's moving this one? Dave? Who's seconding it? Ann? Discussion? Let's vote. Ann?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
And I'm voting yes. Any opposed? I guess not. So that passes unanimously. Okay. So D is the revised version that was sent to everybody. Authorization to transfer funds from the airport fund balance to the airport operating budget for professional services, customs facility costs, airport. There's the international, Tompkins Regional International Airport. Thumbs up. And this is ID 9341. Someone want to move that one? Dave, is there a second? Seconded by Ann. Discussion? Let's vote. Ann?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
I vote yes, that's unanimous. Last one is Resolution E, authorizing acceptance of an anticipated Federal Aviation Administration grant, Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security, CARES Act, for the operating costs and debt service at the Tompkins Regional Airport, ID 9344. And I see Glenn's hand up, and I see Ann's second. Discussion on this one. Okay, let's vote. Ann?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
I vote aye. That's unanimous. Anything else on our airport? Okay, thank you, Mike. We appreciate your help this morning.
Thank you. Hope everybody has a meaningful Memorial Weekend.
Thank you, Mike.
I guess we lost Jeff, didn't we? No, Jeff is still there. On the transportation update, the only thing I wanted to mention, we had a joint ITCTC meeting, the Planning and Policy Committee a couple of weeks ago. And the one thing that did come up in the reports was, again, the discussion about the Route 34A bridge and the coordination with Tompkins County and the Ludlowville Bridge. And there was a little concern about the timing because of the bidding that perhaps we wouldn't be done before they need to start on this multi-million-dollar bridge at Route 34. I think it's a $20 million bridge or so. Jeff, do you have any information on that? Do you think we're going to be done with Ludlow Bridge in time for the detour necessary for Route 34?
We had a conference call with the state, Mark Frechette, planning, I think regional planning director for Region 3, and a couple other of his staff, Doug Mills, John Reichart, and then several of the designers that are, deep into that bridge project. Keep in mind that the reason we bid our bridge the way that we did was that there's a long delay, an anticipated long delay on the delivery of steel stringers or steel beams to span that bridge. With that in mind, it's very likely that we are able to award this bridge project, and at the date and time when we say you have approval to progress the project or to start the project to the contractor, that's the day that group will order those beams. And if it's 6 months before they come in, then there's no reason tearing that bridge out this fall if you're waiting until middle of winter and then experiencing cold weather concrete and everything else. And all of that takes money. It would drive the cost of the bridge up. We didn't want to limit the contractor from deciding to do that. If they want to keep working through the winter and asking if they can do cold weather concrete, it's an added price, but we didn't tell them they had to have that bridge, say, done by the end of January. With that in mind, we have left it open-ended for the contractor to go through the award piece and then actually start the project early in the spring, as early as possible. Allowable probably under a DEC permit would be the date that they could start. And then they would, once they started the bridge, there is also a note in the specs that they have to stay there until it's complete. So they can't stop it, tear it out, and then start it again in the spring. There's a lot of little details as far as the way we bid it, but we did do it open ending. That caused concern by the state because their schedule is to bid it in September. They'll be tearing that bridge out in the winter because there's a lot of demolition there, and then starting it in the spring, and then so that bridge would be all out. Clearly, if those two scenarios take place, both those bridges will be under construction at the same time, which is exactly what we didn't want to do. There is another road, there is another local detour that would go down through Myers. It's not that it wouldn't be accessible or whatnot. They did suggest to us to not bid our bridge or change it to force cold weather concrete and things like that, which I was very resistant to, in the fact that there's so many unknowns. Just to throw out a few, we could get some bridge bids that are over budget, causing us to rebid it, in which case we will have to wait till after the state bridge is done. That's one scenario. Another scenario that really has a lot of unknowns to it is that the DOT design team reported that they're only in design right now. Their schedule is to bid it this fall, September, and then award it by October, and then have the contractor work through the winter to tear that out. There's so many unknowns. How many times have you heard of a state bid project coming in too high, having to rebid? And that was the discussion that I really felt like it was unfair for us to put a delay on our project, being the fact that we've worked so hard to get it to this point. Much of the delay is in the DOT office. So it was a little, frustrating on our side that they were asking that. And we basically agreed that let's just see where it goes and stay in constant contact with each other. And then at which point the decision is made to go ahead with both projects, then we'll have to talk with local officials, and the local detour would be Myers. But keep in mind, the actual state detour will be around state roads the trucking detour will be around the whole area, and that'll be like something that the local people use. We're trying to avoid that. We've been trying to avoid that. The cards aren't in the deck for us to be able to do that at this time if everything goes according to schedule, but there's so many unknowns. We're going to wait and see where it goes. We still have our bid numbers. We still have the state getting their project to bidding it. There's a lot of unknowns, and I hope I made that clear enough. And that's kind of where we're at with that project.
Did they offer any more money if we have to do the cold weather building, for example?
We asked, and there was that was not anything that they were able to do. And they pointed to the fact that this is a Bridge New York awarded project and that the funding is capped, and there would not be any more funding, any increase in cost, anything over what has been provided under Bridge New York funding would be completely 100% local cost. So no.
Thank you for that update, because they were a little concerned at the meeting, and I'm glad you had that discussion with them.
Yeah, and we'll continue to keep in touch with them. And we ask that they, that their schedule is such, but we all know sticking to schedule and what their plans are can change. And we don't know what the bid numbers are going to be under the present conditions. They make, we really, nothing has been bid to know how they're coming in. Are the contractors able to, are they hungry? Are they looking for work? Are they going to be really sharp pencil competitive bidding, which we're hoping for, which is always good for us. We don't know necessarily that, it's a unforeseen delay in delivery of those beams, but that was last year. That was under normal conditions. Are the present conditions such that those beams can be prioritized and delivered sooner, get the project done or started this year? So I think, we don't know, but when we do know, we'll make those decisions as they come along.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Can we take the minutes of April 16th? Dan moves them and seconds them. Is there a discussion? Let's vote on the minutes. Ann?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
I vote yes. Anything else to come before the meeting today? Ann Corman?
I just know Jason came on the meeting after his update with the municipalities. I was just wondering if he had any short update. And I know there's going to be a meeting or a town hall later today also.
I don't have anything specific. Jeff and I spoke earlier today just about CHIPS funding and not knowing the future of CHIPS funding, which is infrastructure related. So, I think that's going to be part of the governor's potential cuts, or could be considered part of them. And there hasn't been the go ahead from the state on what our allotment is to maybe even confirm some work. So we're waiting on that from an infrastructure perspective. Outside of that, I don't have anything specific to update on.
Okay, Ann? Anything else today?
Well, Jason, you have your meeting, the town hall at 5 o'clock. You just want to remind folks, because I find that always interesting to listen into that.
Sure, we do. We have the town hall meeting at 5. Jay Franklin will be with us. Frank, myself, Amy, as well as Shauna will be part of the group. We'll be covering a lot of the changes with the reopening, and that was really the purpose of them when we started last week, and it's proved to be very helpful because every day new things are coming out and changing. And being able to relay that information is always that's where we get a lot of positive feedback of, I didn't know that, and so on and so forth. So I'll also be participating on a panel at noon with the Chamber of Commerce. They're having a panel to kind of talk about this. So we'll be able to push out more information on the reopening.
Thank you.
Okay. Our thanks to Kathy and Katrina and Greg and Lauren. And I see Lisa's been with us. So thanks to everybody for being here today. And I guess we'll adjourn. Have a safe day, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Have a good Memorial weekend.
You too, Ann.
Jason,
Yeah, I'm right here.
were you asking something?
Yeah, do you have a second? Are we off live right now or live streaming or?
No, I don't think so.
No,
Probably you should do it by phone.
I can stop over.
I'm not downtown right now, Mike.
Oh,
What's the number for that phone right there?
One is.
Yeah.
274.
5438.
5438274.
Yes.
I'll call you on that. All right, Mike?
all right.
Thanks. I'll get off now.